Good morning. This is Bill from Auto Europe in Naples on truly a lovely Florida Thursday. The weather is just fantastic. We're in the high 60s this morning. Oh boy, man, we got birds. All right, they're continuing on. The weather's in the high 60s. There's nary an ounce of humidity in the air. There's a little bit of a breeze blowing. It's just absolutely stunning. And the good news is there's cooler weather on the way. Over the weekend, we're dipping way down into the 50s. That's when every, southern Floridian starts putting on parkas. And it's just going to be great. It's just going to be great. So I can't wait. And it's going to be fun. Coming up, we do have, again, I mentioned this little turbo Miata. It got the 2.5 transplant with a big turbo in it. We're rolling that into the shop today to put some really, unnecessary and terrifically fun race parts on it. So we'll do a little shot of that, and I'll try to post that later today, the stuff that's going in it. This is going to be a fun project. And what do I have today? I have this 2009 Infiniti FX50S. Now, where do I begin with this? Because it's a little bit multifaceted. For one thing, this thing's already sold. It's already gone. It's sold to a friend of mine. I won't name any, his name is Robert. Anyway, Robert is unique. And I'm doing air quotes there behind the camera. He is unique. I mean, I don't understand how a guy that I like the way I like Robert, who is charming, can be so into torture as a hobby. It makes me think like Saddam Hussein and Pol Pot were probably pretty nice, fun guys to have around most of the time. And that's Robert. I mean, he just loves torturing people. He's the guy who kind of got us into the spec Miata racing. He trailblazed and paved the way for us. And every now and again, I ask him some sort of a spec Miata tech question. And when I do, I'm kind of shuddering because I know it's going to be like shoving a pine cone up my rear end. I mean, he just won't give you a straight answer. He giggles, he laughs, he tortures, and that's just the way Robert is. And he is getting this thing, this Infiniti FX50S, for his wife, who seems like a very nice woman. And the reason they're getting it is because they just got some dogs, which are the only thing in the world that Robert loves. I don't know. I know how he attained the dogs. Dogs don't really have much of a choice. But the wife, that's a mystery to me. It must have involved like chloroform and maybe a billy club. But somehow he did manage to marry this woman. And she has hung tight with him for many years, which is just shocking. Absolutely shocking. But anyway, God knows the charity in the hearts of women can sometimes be miraculous. What can I say about an Infiniti FX50S? What can I say about it? Well, first of all, I do like it. In fact, I like it a lot. Secondly, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, as an SUV, it's a pretty neat sports car. As a sports car, it's a pretty neat SUV. I mean, it's, again, kind of the answer to the question that nobody asked, but I'm very glad that Datsun, came up with it. I mean, you can see the lines on this thing are unbelievable. I mean, it's got this giant Batmobile front end, this diminutive curved greenhouse going into a very limited amount of cargo room at the back. It just doesn't make any sense. Look at the 21-inch wheels on this thing. I mean, it is absolutely bizarre to see this thing going down the road, and I'm so glad that it can and does, and that Nissan made it. In fact, this was Datsun's flagship at the time. This was their most expensive vehicle, more so even than that land yacht, the QX56. This thing would have stickered up in the 60 to 70 range, which it's kind of a ton of money for a little Datsun SUV, but actually, given the numbers and figures that it produces, turned out to be a pretty relative bargain compared to its competition. When this thing came out in '09, it was faster than a Mustang GT of the same year. It had the same acceleration numbers as a Porsche Boxster S, and it compared very favorably to the to the M cars and such. In fact, there were only 3 SUVs which were faster than this. That was the Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT8, the Porsche Cayenne Turbo, and the Mercedes ML63. So unless you're sitting next to one of them at a stoplight, you're probably going to win the day, and that's pretty incredible. This is the 2nd gen of the FX, which again I've always been a fan of. You can see they put this weird black chrome waterfall grille in the front. They raked the headlights back angrily into the fenders. They added these strange tacky little vents on the side of the fenders, which they say are functional and actually reduce lift by 5%. Again, that swoops into this weird little diminutive rear end that just doesn't make a lot of sense at all. And you know, what the hell are you gonna do? There's the phone ringing, the hell with it. Let's get in this thing. Okay, so one thing that's weird to me is that a $60,000 SUV doesn't have a power liftgate, but it doesn't. But you know, it's light enough, it's got good prop rods, and it's fine. This does still have this Infiniti cargo box, which is fantastic. So, you know, 3 infants you can put in this thing, no problem at all. They're going to be able to sort of, you know, look at and smell each other if they're inside of here, so they know they've got company. But they're definitely not getting out of this thing unless they're unusually nimble. You also do have your standard infant containment net here. I'm not sure this is where it goes, but it's the only place I could find that made any sense, so there it is. I think there's also, if you get underneath all this crap, there's a full-size spare tire toolkit and some other nice stuff. So, you know, the space in the back of this thing, not much different than the Cadillac XLR that we reviewed yesterday, which, you know, one questions why that makes sense as an SUV. But when you look under the hood and start getting into the performance figures, you immediately stop caring about that. Anyway, there it is. That's the hatch. That's the SUV part. I love the Infiniti badge. There's some debate as to whether that's a, you know, sort of a thing for Mount Fuji, or it's just some nitwit driving off into Infiniti on a highway. Let's have a look under the hood. Those ridiculous wheels. Okay, so under here is a 5-liter twin overhead. Actually, you got 4 cams, 32 valves, 390 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque. It is a fantastic engine. It's loosely derived on the 4.5 that came before it, but truly it didn't go in any other Infiniti. This particular designation, it's like the FQ500VE or something, you know, some retarded thing. But the only other application this engine saw was in a couple of Datsun race cars. So pretty strange to have this particular engine used in only one vehicle, but that's the way it was, and that's why this car was the flagship of the Infiniti lineup, you know, with the most powerful engine and the highest sticker price. Interesting that that would be the case, but there it is. Have a look in the back seat. Look at that wheel and tire combo. Okay, being this upgraded FX50S with all the expensive stuff, it got some really nice, what do they call it, like diamond tuck leather, pleated, whatever you want to call it. Beautiful, beautiful leather in this thing. How happy are your Canadians going to be? I don't know, you know? I mean, it's got leg room, it's fine. You got some rear AC outlets there, so they're going to be kept moderately cool. But, you know, again, compared to other SUVs, it's pretty small back here. I'm glad Robert has little dogs. They're not that big, so they'll be able to be back here without too much hassle. But could you fit 3 Canadians comfortably? It's debatable. 2, if they're not super short or super tall, maybe you know, medium-sized Canadians. I think 3 of them are going to start complaining. Obviously, these seats do fold down in a 60-40 sort of way, and that will theoretically help you with your cargo. So there it is. You know, you do get a nice upgraded sort of dash panel with beautiful inlaid mahogany wood and leather wrapped stuff, and then a standard Datsun switch that could be in an Altima. Beautiful little chromy, nickel-y inserts with the wood and the chrome door pulls. I mean, it's a very nice fit and finish in this car. Very, very nice. The chrome around the windows and the door handles, a little bit suspect, but fine. Also, you get a chrome strip at the bottom of the rocker there, and then this hilariously tacky vent in the side, which again, they do say is functional, but so what? I just don't know that it's necessary to have all that bling on the car. You know, look at the giant brakes on this thing, manhole covers behind the, I mean, those are 21-inch wheels, you have to remember. So, I mean, that is an enormous brake caliper and rotor back there. These, because it has the sport package, does have these adaptive and self-leveling headlights that, you know, when you take a corner, just like an old Tucker, the light turns with the car. So pretty neat stuff. Up top, you get kind of a small sunroof, and I mean, I don't know, are these supposed to be cargo racks? What are you going to do? You're going to stuff something up there and tie that down? I don't know. I think that's just for looks. Nice little antenna at the back as well. Obviously, it's got keyless stuff. I've got the key in my pocket so I can lock it by pressing that button, and I can open it. Can I open it just by pulling? No. They actually do make you press the button again to open it. Okay, up front, you know, this shares the same sort of layout as most other Infinitis, as, by the way, does the frame. It's that FM front midships frame that's basically used for virtually every Infiniti, at least in 09, except for that big QX56. So it's essentially a Datsun Z car unibody under there, and that's partially why the thing handles so well. I mean, it's got, you know, wishbone suspension up front, the trailing link in the back, you know, all the stuff that makes the Z handle is in this rather bizarre SUV. You can see it has beautiful supportive leather seats, again with this sort of pleating stuff. It's got a extendable thigh support. You've got probably lumbar here, these two guys, your power adjustments. Well, that's lumbar, I think, so I don't know what the hell these are. We'll try and figure that out as we go. You know, again with the door panel treatment, with the leather. I mean, they really outdid themselves with the wood in this thing. That's really pretty. I like the chrome trim around it and the sort of metallic-y chrome nickel bits on top of it with the memory seat stuff. That's all pretty neat. This does not have the technology package, which is fine. I mean, if you have a Dungeons and Dragons convention at Nissan, it's going to be very well attended because there is a lot of techie geeks at this place. If this had the sport package, it would have this row of indecipherable buttons here that would just control all sorts of ridiculous things on your car that you probably would never know it had. So it's probably for the best that's not there. Anyway, let's hop in. Okay, we're gonna foot on the brake and tap this guy, and the whole thing fires to life. A self-test on those fluorescent looking gauges, which look to me like a Las Vegas slot machine. We got some freezing air conditioning. Let me get my seatbelt on. We'll start going through this stuff. Turn that AC down. There's a lot of menacing sounds coming from under the hood of this thing. Okay, so let me press enter to accept so the lawyers are happy. There's our navigation. Why do I have so much fan? I want less fan. I'll turn it off for a second. It's cool enough. Okay, so anyway, there's these sort of bioelectric, electric illumination, fluorescent gauges. You know, what you need. You've got 180 mile an hour speedo, which would not be ambitious, except this thing's governed to 155. But I mean, it would haul ass all the way up near that. You got your tach over there to the left, you got your water temp, and you got your fuel. And then you have a little driver information center in the middle. I hope I have my glasses because I'm going to need it for all these buttons. I really am. This is over the top. All right, here's another thing that I really like about this car is these magnesium and leather shifter paddles. These are straight out of the Nissan GTR. Very, very fancy, and I think some of the coolest shifter paddles in the business. I like that they're attached to the column and not the wheel. They're huge, like in a Maserati, and probably very fun to use. And the 7-speed in this thing will actually blip the throttle. It'll do the rev matching for you when you're downshifting it manually, you know, just like a Maserati or Ferrari. It's kind of neat stuff. Under the hood, again, with 390 horsepower, this thing, there's a lot of different instrumented tests out there that vary wildly, but I'm going to go with Car and Driver, and they got this thing to run a 13.6 quarter mile at 104 miles an hour. They got 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. I mean, this thing hauls ass. That is a screaming fast SUV, and we're gonna have a little bit of fun trying that out. Let's get the engine to heat up. The steering wheel is full of multi-function stuff. You got your voice command, you got your stereo volume, you've got your I don't even know what the hell this is, so this goes through more stereo stuff. This is your cruise control, on and off, all very nice. You've got your stalks back there, rear wiper, headlights. What is going on with the radio? We've been listening to static for the last 3 minutes. It's fine. There we go. It sounds a little bit staticky, but I think that's probably the bass pedal effect. Anyway, Nissan's tech is pretty good. Datsun, Infiniti, whatever the hell it is. It looks really confusing and maybe even a little annoying when you're sort of getting in the car, but they've managed to fit an awful lot of controls into a very tidy center stack here. It's a little bit weird having these buttons, aimed at the ceiling, but you do get to see them. If I hit camera, it's actually going to give me the camera view. And Nissan had the best camera in the business back in '09. It had this overhead thing. A lot of cars have that now, but this was pretty rare back then, and it makes parallel parking a breeze. You get the direct reverse here, and you get the overhead view there. So your wife has absolutely zero excuse if she backs into somebody while trying to parallel park. This thing, because it has the Sport package, and this scares the crap out of me, it also has electric four-wheel steering. We talked about that in the Prelude the other day, and how I wouldn't like it, and I'm sure I'm not going to like it in this thing either, but I mean, it should make the turn-in rather incredible. I think it'll electrically, an electric motor will turn it up to like 1 degree or something to make the turning, a little bit more proper than it would be without it. It also uses this really advanced all-wheel drive system that has a strong rear bias. It's 50-50 only at takeoff, and then very quickly just sort of moves to the back wheels and only adds the front if it needs them. So pretty advanced all-wheel drive system in this thing. Anyway, we go through all the different stuff. So we've got our, again, our navigation. You've got your satellite radio and stuff. All very nice. Your AMs, you get into your status when we get Bob FM, the police, info, your fuel economy. Where am I? That's a friggin' excellent question. You can get into all this stuff. Phone, clock, comfort, navigation, volume and beeps. Turn off all the beeps. Down here you've got more radio controls. I love that they've given you a traditional volume knob and a traditional tuning knob. I think that's fantastic. Kudos to the engineers at Datsun for that. There's your slot for the CDs. The absolutely prerequisite analog clock that denotes this is a luxury car. Here's all your, I don't know what the hell it is, your AC controls, compact flash, and I don't want to break this thing. I don't know what the hell that is. I never looked it up. I can push it, it doesn't do anything. I'm pulling it, really not doing anything. It's got a little under pull thing. Holy crap. Alright, I guess that's some sort of a memory card that you can put in there and get music. I also know it has a hard drive that will, you can, like 90 gigabytes of music. Down here you've got not an ashtray. It's got felt inside there, so this whole thing will go up like the Hindenburg if you use it. I guess they don't expect you to smoke. It has Bose sound, so you get this little center channel up top and 11 speakers. You've got a manumatic shifter here that you can bang your way through the gears like that or just leave and drive. Down here you've got my favorite option other than massage seats, with the cold seats, which I'm going to leave on. That blasts a nice little bit of cool air up your rump while you're standing there. You've got your traction control for snow. You've got a dead button here. Again, being the Sport package, you get the auto or sport setting on the adaptive dampers, the shocks on the car. You can stiffen them or leave them in auto, and it'll decide how you like to drive and react accordingly. You also have these little cup holders here, which look like they're going to spill your coffee. You've got a spot here, not much in the way of gun storage in this thing. I mean, you're getting something very small in here. I mean, very small. like one of those pocket 9mm. Down low, you could get something a little bigger, where you've got all your iPod and 12-volt interfaces and stuff, but it's pretty hard to reach in a pinch, so if you're in a gunfight, you might want to be more ready than that. Here's the thing I want to crab at Nissan about for a minute, and Lexus and some others. The singed dashboards. I mean, these guys have been building cars for like a century. You would think they would figure out a way to have built a dashboard that would not crack in the sun. In fact, it's so bad in some of these cars, the Lexus, this Infiniti, some others, that there were lawsuits. There had to be a big, class action suit. They would replace them under warranty, but they did it in such a way that you had to call, on a second Tuesday of the month between the hours of 10 and 10:15, or you wouldn't get it. All designed so you'd not know it was happening. And that's a shame. It's a shame that they made something like that, and it's a shame that they didn't own up to it as well as they could have. And it's a shame that so many of these cars now are running around with cracked dashes. Really unacceptable stuff. Nissan, Lexus, Toyota, looking at you. Beautiful mahogany wood again. I mean, absolutely gorgeous wood in this car. And I would say overall the interior is befitting of a $65,000 car. You got a self-dimming mirror, nice stuff, place to stuff your sunglasses. You got that power sunroof up there, which is so small, it's like something you'd fire arrows through in the Middle Ages, but good enough. Get a little AC going. And you have this hilarious Batmobile grill up front. I feel like I'm driving a 1957 Ferrari Testarossa. I mean, it is just bulging fenders, bulging hood. I mean, this thing is so muscular out the windshield. Man, is that cold air conditioning. Let's go for a spin. Let's see if we can find any Mustang GTs to terrorize. Very, very confident, I think, based on that all-wheel drive. For these ladies who like their up-high seating position, they get it in this, so it's fine. And of course, then Robert, who's a psychotic driver, can borrow it occasionally and go out and cause mayhem on the streets. The steering is beautifully responsive, immediate feel when you're off-center. Look at that, no traffic today. And the throttle, I read about this, the throttle is very hard to modulate in this car. I mean, it's almost like it wants you to break traffic laws, which I am very happy to accommodate. We have enough engine. Oh my God, you can feel, I hope we get a red light here. You can feel that instant torque out of this thing, and a beautiful exhaust note. Come on, red light, come on, come on. Oh, damn it. All right, well, look, let's just do a drop-down hammer and see what happens. All right, it starts pulling. It's a little bit, sort of, I don't know what you'd call it. It's a little bit deceptive at first because it doesn't react with a huge kick, but then all of a sudden it just pulls in a way where you think it's going to taper off. Oh, and listen to that. Wow, man, is that a lovely sound coming from out underneath the hood of this thing, and the exhaust pipes. And there's that great steering again. All right, let's hit it. A little bit of wheel spin. I mean, it is a fantastically fun SUV. Is it an SUV? I don't know. Vehicle to hammer. Instant throttle response and just a lovely pull up through the rev band. Again, it uses VVT. They call it something else that's dumb, like variable valve electric lift, or it's VVEL or VVET, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's the same thing. What it does is let that V8 breathe better, that the 32 valves adjust accordingly, whether you're at the bottom of the torque band or the top, to give you as much juice as they can. The 7-speed shifts, not exactly, smooth Bentley quality. I mean, it feels more sporty than it should for a car like this. But if we were downshifting and paddle shifting, it would have done all those little throttle beeps or blips to keep the revs matched, as though you were, running around Watkins Glen. All right, so here, long story short, I really like this because it's dumb. It really is quite dumb. I mean, as an SUV, it's not. I mean, it just doesn't have the same room that like a Jetta wagon has. As a sports car, while it's too high, you're sitting too high. It turns in pretty great times and all that, but it's still not a sports car. So, I mean, what the hell is it? I mean, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I will say this much about it. I was talking the other day about how my sister, you know, thinks she can't have an extramarital affair if she's driving a minivan. And I told her that it was more about the way she looked than the way the van looked. In this case, I might have to disagree. It would be a very sporting lass who would drive one of these cars. And, you know, guys are going to like this car. They're going to want to drive it. And that may make her more appealing to the pool boy or the cabin boy or the guy who cuts the grass. He may want to drive this thing and as such find himself more in tune with the soccer mom who's driving it. So anyway, congrats to Robert and his wife and their dogs. I hope they get many enjoyable years out of this thing. And otherwise, really appreciate you guys having a look. We will see you with the next one. Take care.